Leni benye nile loko. Esiko dede asiko yi. Hello everyone, it's Adirunke again. I hope it is going well. Today I'll be addressing the word ibi. I just realized that I always say it's Adirunke again. Yes, it's me again on your neck. Today I'll be addressing the word ibi and what it means in and of itself. You've probably heard it. You've probably prayed against it. You probably already know that it involves some kind of unpleasantness in one way or another. But the point of today's teaching would be to help you see that ibi is not an antonym of ire. So in my previous video, or one of the previous ones, I mentioned ire, what it means in and of itself. Today I'll be addressing what ibi means. You would often think of it as the opposite of good, So the English translations that are ascribed to it are bad, wrong, evil. That's what you would most likely see in most dictionaries or maybe on Google Translate. I haven't checked, but it's probably what you will see. These three words. However, my concern with learning Yoruba and translating Yoruba is many times the beauty of words or the real meanings, the actual meanings of words are lost when you just take another word and dump it. So I don't know what language bad came from. I can check very quickly. Or the language wrong came from, or evil. I'll see if it's German or some other. So bad came from badel, Old English. I don't know what that means in and of itself. And the word wrong, Old Norse, from rang to rang and then to something along the lines of ring and then it became wrong. So again, I don't know Old Norse, so I don't know what that means in and of itself or what those people considered when they created the word, what was considered, what was thought of. It's always hard with English because it has roots in these many languages. Sometimes it's not easy to tell. And then evil, you can almost tell just with the way that it's pronounced, right? That it has Germanic origins, evil. So from German to Old English, and then it has like a Dutch connection, Yevel, and then Huvel, and then Hubel, and then all of that became evil. So it has Dutch and Germanic origins. My point is, when you don't speak all these other languages and you don't know what they mean in and of themselves, and you're translating Yoruba, and you just ascribe that, you shut the real Yoruba meaning of the word down, and you say, I don't care what my own ancestors were thinking of when they created the word ibi. I'm just going to accept that whatever that means is perfectly equivalent to whatever bad means and whatever wrong means and whatever evil means. At least what I think they mean in English. Damn the Norse and German and Dutch parts of them. I'm just going to take those as equivalents. That's always my concern. That's not good. That completely ruins the language, the Yoruba language or whatever other language you're translating to another. It's one thing I'm known for, and some people like me for, and some people completely loathe me for because they think, why do you have to go through all that? But I think it's essential that you go through that. Anyway, let's break the word ibi down to understand it better. Ibi, the I in ibi, if you've seen similar videos, you know by now that typically with nouns, the way most nouns are formed, there's a noun maker, which typically includes a letter, two at most. 98% of the time, or let me just say 95 to be safe, it would be one letter plus a verb. When you combine those, you get a noun. So the I in ibi is the noun maker. You could translate that as the thing that, or the thing that is, or the thing that does. It really depends on the context of the noun in general. the thing that, or the thing that is. Again, this is just a letter and a syllable that helps make the noun, but you infer, because you know that it's a noun maker, this is what you infer. The thing that, or the thing that is, or the thing that does, depending on the context. Be is what we're trying to break down now. Be, and how that helps shape the word ibi. The verb really shapes the noun, so you pay a lot of attention to the verb and what it's telling you. Be is to ask or inquire. Be, it's also to question or query. Be, depending on the context. I always say that. Be, ask or inquire, question or query. Now, ibi, if you're going to translate that, it can go two different ways. It could be the thing that questions, the thing that, the thing that be questions or asks. It could also be the thing that is questioned. So those are the two forms that it could take, both of which are accurate in many cases, and I'll explain further soon. Be could be the thing that questions. It could be the thing that is questioned. Let's take the thing that questions first. The thing that questions a person, or the thing that asks something of a person. The thing that questions a person or asks something of them. And I think when I put ask something of, it helps make it make sense. The mental picture that ibi creates is not the same that bad, wrong, and evil evil create. The mental picture that these words create is not quite the same as the one ibi creates when it's translated this way. The thing that questions, the thing that asks something of a person, the thing that challenges a person. It tests you, let's even put it that way. Although donwo would be like the proper word if we're going to permanently stamp the word test on this way of looking at the word ibi. That would be like the proper word, but this is another form of it as well. You know, it questions you, it asks something of you, your strength, your ability to bear it, your ability to solve it. If it happens to be one that can be solved, your ability to address it properly. You know, it challenges you, it tests you, it questions who you are, what you can take, and the way forward. That's one way of looking at the word ibi. Ibi, when looked at a different way, would be the thing that is questioned. Again, these translations are not quite bad, wrong, or evil. You take away the beauty of the word ibi when you stamp these on them. It's not like I haven't done that myself. So if you come across an old video of mine saying ibi bad or wrong or evil, and just moving on from that, don't say, oh, what's a hypocrite, she once said ibi is evil or something. You know, these are the common translations that are thrown around, but once in a while I like to take some time to do this in and of itself, this kinds of videos, so that you can see that although we are just using this English word so that we can move on, we are very aware that they are not equivalents at all, that sometimes those meanings have nothing to do with the Yoruba words at all, but we're just going along with what is popular, I suppose. Why is it questioned? When you say ibi, the thing that is questioned, why is it questioned? It's questioned because it's hard to accept. It's not easy to accept. And I thought of an example to give. I came up with this one. If you go to your place of work tomorrow and you find out that they no longer need your services, this is a very minute form of ibi, because depending on where you live, being fired is not really a big deal. And also it depends on the person. You go to your office and you're told to leave. Your services are no longer accepted. You question it. Even if you don't question the person who does that, You question yourself. Is it something I've done? Is it something I said? It's hard to accept. It's hard to accept. Now, if you're promoted, for example, you may question yourself too. You may say, what have I done to deserve this promotion? But it won't be with the same intensity as you would question something unpleasant. When something pleasant happens to you, you don't question it the way you question something unpleasant. You may think, okay, I've been working all this while and this nice thing happened to me. You won't spend days crying about it, wondering what happened, what you could have done better to not get this promotion. It's very weird that you would do that. But if something unpleasant happens, you will likely do that. You know, it may involve tears, it may involve questioning yourself. It may lead to other things like even dwelling in it, being depressed by it. It's questioned because it's hard to accept. It's not easy. It's hard to accept and it raises questions. What did I do? What happened here? What can I do? Questions like how? How did it happen? If you don't ask yourself these questions, people will ask them for you. Especially with the Yoruba culture being so communal, in many ways, people would ask, how did it happen? Where did it happen? When did it happen? Who did it happen to? People would likely talk about it depending on how intense it is. Which of them did it happen to? What happened? Why did it happen? These questions, some or all of this, will be asked probably depending on the intensity of that happening, of that occurrence. You go to your house, you suddenly been evicted, been thrown out, or everything, is on fire, or they've all become ashes. You likely ask all of these. What happened? What did I do? How? Why? When? Depending on what has happened, it raises questions. It raises questions again because it's hard to accept. It's not easy. Let's leave the police aside, whether it involves law enforcement or not. Maybe you've lost something or a death has occurred, something evil has occurred. Well, I did say let's put the police aside. Maybe let's think about the police for a second. They would ask questions. You want to make sense of this thing, so you ask questions. The thing that is questioned, it raises questions. So many questions start to arise because of this thing that has happened, because it is hard to accept. In the modern world, now let's bring the police in. Even if it's easy for you to accept, depending on what it is, it may be difficult for the government of where you live or the people around you to accept it. And if it's easy for you to accept, but it's hard for other people to accept, sometimes it may be because you consciously or unconsciously had a hand in it. So that would also raise questions about you and your involvement in what happened. So it raises questions. It be the thing that is questioned. In the traditional sense, especially thinking about the Yoruba history and when unpleasant things happen, especially when those events are happening to everyone or are happening on a large scale, and maybe not necessarily, maybe just even happening to an individual. The traditional sense, you go to Ifa, you inquire. It makes you inquire. If something pleasant happens to you, maybe you have a baby. Let's think about it that way. You may go to Ifa, and the way that you would raise questions or ask questions, it would quite be the way that you'd ask questions when something unpleasant happens. Maybe deaths are occurring and they are just not making sense. The wrong demographic is dying, for example. If somebody has a baby, it's very unlikely that they'll go to Ifa and ask, why did you give me a baby? What happened? Why did I have a baby? What for? It's very unlikely. Instead, the questions would be something along the lines of, okay, I have this pleasant thing. What can I do to maintain it, to manage it properly? So thinking along the lines of akose jaye and things like that. For this soul that has arrived, what can I do? How can I help them fulfill their purpose? Or like, I want to understand them better. I want to understand this stranger better and how to manage them. You know, this soul, but yes, they are my child and everything, but this is my responsibility. I want to understand them so that I can aid their current incarnation, so that I can tell them the right things. You know, that would be what your question would likely revolve around. Not what for? Why did this unpleasant thing happen? But if it's a death, for example, or a terrible sickness, or a loss, or a separation, you'd most likely be questioning it. Why? You know, those are the questions that you would likely have, and of course, you would be responded to with an Odu and stories that may be similar to yours, and the solution that was applied, or the remedy, let me even put it that way, the remedies that were applied in those instances may even be recommended to you, and sometimes even modified for you, again depending on what the diviner sees and what your situation is. So in the traditional sense, even, you ask so that you can get a solution, and if there's no solution for what has happened already, you ask so that you can prevent it. You question it. Again, the emphasis is on hard to accept. Why? What can we do? Who caused it? Or which of these things that happened, or these things that are about to happen, caused it? To whom will it happen next? Do you think it would happen next? And how can we prevent that? And where do we go? And how do we do this thing? And when exactly do we do it? Questions are asked. That's what Ibi is about. Stages of grief. You know, like any unpleasant thing that happens, acceptance would likely be the last thing on the list. You may deny it, you may be angry about it, you may bargain, it may make you sad, but acceptance is almost always the last thing. And even acceptance may not always be the end of it. You may accept it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you become happy with it. Besides the fact that it tests you, it challenges you, it challenges your ability to manage it, to solve it. It is also questioned. You also do the questioning. You want to know why. You want to know how to stop it. One thing that I also have to mention before I end the video is many things, although unpleasant or painful, are not considered EB. For example, a 95-year-old man dies. You don't really question it. They are not EB. These events are not EB because they are not challenging or hard to accept, and they are not questioned. It's a good number, 95. You may cry about it. I'm not saying that you're happy about it or you're not sad at all, but you don't handle it the way you would handle the demise of a 5-year-old or 20-year-old, let's say. It's not hard to accept. You know that with old age comes things like that. If somebody's 96-year-old grandma dies and you go to them and you say, they're going to give you the stink eye, definitely. Like, what kind of stupid prayer is that? That's not EB, that's a good thing. I mean, I miss my grandma, but please keep your stupid prayers to yourself. What you just said makes no sense. You know, it's not challenging or hard to accept. It's not questioned. Probably at that stage it was already expected. So don't pray that prayer. It's a good thing, but you're just not happy about it. So many things, although unpleasant or painful, are not EB. The Yoruba people don't see Ibi and Ire as opposites. Even the words themselves are not opposites. Ire is not an antonym of Ibi. Ibi is not an antonym of Ire. They are not mutually exclusive. Again, this is me doing the same thing I'm trying to preach about, because I really don't know the way forward. When you're translating, to make it easy so that you don't use too many words, sometimes you just pick what is considered the closest and move on. Bad is not EB, but this is me just using bad here. Tough, unpleasant, challenging, hard to accept. Good and bad, let me just use bad so that I can move on. Good and bad are not mutually exclusive from the Yoruba perspective. Ibi wa ninu ire, ire wa ninu ibi. something that might test you, that might challenge you, that might be hard to accept, may also come from something that you think would expand you or make you grow. I handled the word ire recently. Handled. I broke it down recently, so I'll link it for you to see. Something that that enlarges you, something that you consider a blessing, may also involve something that would challenge you, that would be hard to accept. You have the job of a president, for example. You are the president of your country. That may involve a couple of sleepless nights, threats to your own security, threats to your sanity. It's nice, you know, the money, the connection, the power, the everything, really. But that may involve some unpleasantness too. So the Yoruba people have always known that less time with your family, let's say, again using this random example, have reduced level of privacy, drastically reduced. Maybe the only time when you're not having security around you is when you're having a private moment in your bedroom. And what makes you think you're not being watched by your security either? You know, their job is to protect you, and they will at every cost. So that may involve some unpleasantness. Now, whether you consider those unpleasantness or not, and if you happen to go through something unpleasant, the loss of a job, for example, that may also involve some good. Maybe something even better is coming. And many people would say from personal experience that things like that tend to come with some kind of good. So you lose your job and the next one that you find pays more, is less stressful, it's more comfortable, it's better for your mental health. Not to say that it would be completely perfect either, but you find one that is much better. That's a good coming out of some sort of evil. If you weren't kicked out, probably you wouldn't have gone through the rigor of trying to find another one, another job, and you probably wouldn't be in the better place that you are. So they're not mutually exclusive. From the Yoruba perspective, they're not opposites of each other. They're like twins or siblings. They walk hand in hand. Tibitire la daliaye is what the Yoruba people say. There is increase, pleasantness and blessing really on the individual level and as a collective. And there are challenging moments that are hard to accept, that are not as nice. That's how the earth was created. That is how the world works. There's never any permanent good moment that lasts forever. There's never any permanent challenging moment that lasts forever. The way that the world works, the way that the earth was created, they work hand in hand to make the world function. That's how the world functions. That's how this earth, this sphere that we are on, that's how it functions. So that's that about Ibi. It's not the equivalent of evil or wrong or bad, or those are English words that we would throw on that because they are the closest that we can find, and they've been used for a couple of centuries now. It's so hard to change what comes very quickly into people's minds by default. If you have any questions or additions to what I've stated, please don't hesitate to let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, for your time and for your support. Thank you to my YouTube members and patrons and people who send me monetary gifts in the comment section. Sometimes I'm so grateful to you, and I'll see you in the next video. Enjoy the rest of your day, and bye for now.
olè ìjọlè lólè láńlá ká mọ́mọ́ jòlè ọ̀gá gbogbo wa mọ́lé àlùjànnú inú èso ọ̀fọ́mọ́gbẹ̀rù lórí àgbà.